Mm, 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 mm.
Hey, everybody.
Hey,
Hello, hello.
good morning.
Hi. Good morning.
Morning.
This is Molly McGowan.
Hey, Molly.
Hi, Paul.
How's it going? I've foolishly set up the waiting room feature for this, and so now I get to manually approve everyone as they arrive. So,
Okay.
eh. Better all this than getting the meeting hacked, though. I had that happen last week on a happy hour, and it was not appropriate. I can tell you that much. Some folks got some time on their hands, and they do some really nasty stuff in Zoom rooms.
Sorry about that, Paul.
Oh,
Yeah. I told you to stop doing that, but no. Let's see here. Admits.
Do I need to go and get my prop beard, guys?
Yeah. Yeah, it's a requirement.
I want to shave your head too, Tony.
For this half of the room.
Sam, I didn't think you were going to be able to get on your boat today. That's awesome.
This is all for you, man.
Hey, Sam, how's it going, buddy?
Wow.
Pretty good. How's everybody?
Good.
Hanging in there.
So far, so good. All right. So to state the obvious here, friends, we're just going to do the let's wait a few minutes while people slowly, wander in. Apparently, some confirmations did go to some spam boxes, so some folks might be struggling to look for their links at the moment. Oh, now I got two KDs. Okay, let's try this one. Let's try this one. Okay, now I just need all the presenters to shave a minute off of your presentations starting now. No biggie.
I'm already at 6 minutes, and I've tried it like 10 times. So.
Okay, cool. Well, in your case, add 3. Let's see here.
Hi, Katie.
Hi, Tony. How are you?
Good. I saw Dan last night. Now I'm seeing you today.
You just got all the members of the Krawczyk Giganti household.
We've never been close. Zoom is bringing us all closer.
Yeah, seriously.
It's just
Thanks,
a little distance in between. I'm dreaming now in grids. Is what seeing multiple screens in my dreams.
Funny you say that. I had a dream this morning, maybe a precursor to today's meeting, that I joined a call that was already in session. I didn't know where. This is like the equivalent of like you're running late to math class. That's what life has become.
Yeah, that actually happened yesterday. I had the time wrong, and the meeting usually runs 90 minutes, and I got on at almost the top of the hour, and she goes, well, that just about covers everything we planned to talk about. So.
I have a dream that I'm the Zoom pirate, and I've ruined my career.
Amazing.
So have any of you guys actually been Zoom bombed?
Yes.
I have not.
Nope.
Yep. It was gross.
I've been Zoom bombed by my granddaughter and my daughter and my husband, but not by an outside hacker yet.
Tell us your story, Paul.
Oh, man. Luckily, it's a brief one. And yeah, some people are still trickling in. But actually, it was on the Western New York Startup Happy Hour, whatever the thing that Pelkey does. And Christine Howard was there. There's a few of us. and then some other folks joined, you know, and you can't tell if it's 10 people or it's just one person running 10 accounts in. Luckily, the way my monitors are, I couldn't see screen share, because apparently the real problem was in what they were screen sharing. They kept taking screen share and running off some really inappropriate, they were saying some racial slurs. They called me out for some reason. I mean, they used my name wrong. So, you know,
Wow.
they was like, oh, it's Grainer. He gave us the link. He's a traitor. There was just like 15 voices and like a song and then really inappropriate. So finally, Pelkey just shut the damn thing down, and we restarted it, and luckily they did not rejoin us. But once that happened, I went back and reset this whole meeting for registration approval required, for the waiting room, you know, like whatever I had to do to make sure that like that wasn't going to happen. And I hope there was one person who registered. I could not verify their existence online independently, no LinkedIn, no Google search. So Jim Thompson, if anyone knows who is Jim Thompson, who works for a mysterious CMA group with an AOL address, they did not make the cut because I couldn't verify that they're a real person. It's
The name
tough.
of one of my favorite authors.
Yeah. Well,
Don't trust anybody with an AOL address. That or
That's-
Netscape.
yeah.
Just keep them right out.
yeah. Someone else did join with an AOL address that's a real person. So, you know, I spent a few minutes on each person to try to give everyone a chance. But all right, so there are still people coming in, but I figure let's get this thing rolling because I've given everyone an insanely compressed time frame as it is to present something of value. So just so everyone's aware, this is being recorded. And that's not, I'm not sure what we're going to use that for, honestly. At this point, really, it's like quality control / how badly did this go? What can we change if we want to do something like this in the future? And then if we've got some content that everyone can use, then cool. But just a heads up that it is recorded. So if that makes you nervous, you might want to hop off or at least not share anything of any confidentiality or embarrassing natures. So let's hop right into it. We've got 5 presentations. Again, the flow here is we're going to go through these presentations one at a time, and then everyone's going to have a few minutes to do some direct interaction. So when people have questions, something to put in, please go through the chat, and then we'll kind of use the chat to moderate that. So if you've got some questions while someone's speaking, just throw something in the chat. Presenters, I will try to feed those to you. So when we get to the end of your presentation, I'll pull up the chat and give you a couple questions, and then we'll go from there. And hopefully, time willing, we will be able to do a little bit of an open Q&A at the end and wrap it all up. So without further ado, Mr. Jonathan Gorczyca, go ahead, take it away.
No, I'm just kidding. I know I'm on mute. All right, let me share my screen here. Let's see how this goes. All right, can everybody see my keynote? Yes, okay, great. All right, so I'm going to talk a little bit about product and UX strategy. Basically, a lot has changed during this time, and I just want to take advantage of kind of analyzing what we do and how we look at our businesses. I'm Jonathan. I'm a product designer by trade. I grew up in Buffalo, moved into the city about 15 years ago. I currently run a product design studio where we build software and UX prototypes and interfaces. I've worked with a bunch of great brands locally and nationally, but enough about me. It's about you. And one of the main messages that I have for everybody is really to focus on the people. I think we're in a very unique time to understand that we're all the same. And it's really an opportunity to connect with customers or users that may be feeling unsure, as we all are. And so it's really a time to reach out to people and understand them. I think we all generally feel isolated at this time, whether we're social distancing or haven't seen family or can only kind of talk to people through these odd little rectangles on our screens. But we have to realize that we are all human. We have weaknesses. It's okay to be vulnerable. And so now as a brand, as a business, is really your time to reach out to your customers. And this might be through a simple survey. It might be a personal email. And I say personal email because we've all gotten, you know, the emails from J. Crew and whatever clothing line, pretending to, care about me when they're really trying to sell me something. But really, like, send that personal email that's short, that's just checking in with your customers, saying, hey, I'm a human who's going through this as well. How can I help you? How can I help you use my product or service a little better? I think going a step further, having a phone call with people, with your customers, reaching out to them, understanding that there are humans on the other side of this, and then video chat. On the end of that, stay connected with people. It kind of is a double-edged sword, if you will. Like, you get the benefit of providing that connection and value to people. You also get that data back. So they might help you understand how they're coping with the situation and how their lifestyle has changed, and you could respond to that. So stay connected. Fun fact, all of those faces on the right were generated by artificial intelligence. User personas, we've all heard this and used them, but now is another time to kind of jump in and examine them. They've probably changed, right? Their frustrations and motivations might be very different now. So pull up this document and take a look at that. For those of you that don't know, a user persona is kind of this fictional representation of who your ideal customer or user is. It's kind of like a stereotype. So take a look at this, imagine who those people are, aim for 2 to 5 of them, and really keep them at the forefront. But I have no doubt that they have changed during this time. So pull out this old doc and redistribute it and analyze it. The next thing that I like to talk about is an empathy map. Some of you might have gone through this design exercise, but again, we're in this very unique time where many of these quadrants have probably changed on how people think. And what it does is really help you get in the perspective of who your customer and user is. And the specific things on here we'll touch base on very quickly, but really you define who they are. So this might be a buyer or a seller in a marketplace, or it might be someone visiting your e-commerce site. But the questions that are listed in this empathy map template really help you analyze what they're thinking. So you define who they are, what they need to do, what their goal is. So that might be to purchase produce or find a place to source toilet paper, right? But it asks you these questions like, what do they need to do differently? What are they typically hearing? Right now, they might be hearing that, oh, everybody's low on toilet paper and you can't get it anywhere. So list all of those out. What do they see? They might be watching press conferences. They might be understanding that there's scarcity. They might see headlines on social media that says, oh, there's nothing available, right? And what do they say? What are they saying to their friends and family? Basically, you're thinking how this person would feel and think and act, so that you could better meet their needs. And right in the center there, you see kind of their pains and their gains. And this is really, you want to outline what their fears are. They might have frustrations or anxieties, and then what they really want, right? How to help them feel better, how to help them have their need met. So take this thing, it's called an empathy map, do a quick Google search. There's a lot of stuff out there, and start to fill this out because, again, no doubt it has changed. The next thing is really examine their journey because the world is different now, right? They might be all virtual, depending on how they interact with your product or service. Now is a time to really look at the path that they go through. And I want to talk a little bit about a user journey map. Some of you may have this for your business or for your customers. Some may have things that are very, very detailed like this. That's probably not the case anymore. It's either up in flames or completely different. So I'll just talk a little bit about what is on here. So up at the top, you see there are stages to the process that your customer goes through, listed kind of across the top there. Down the left side, you'll see kind of the specifics, what are they doing, thinking, and feeling. And then in the middle meaty area where it says insights, that's where you kind of meet the stages of the process along with the specifics. So think like, what is someone thinking when they are booking their reservation for travel? Or what are they hearing from people when they are researching where to get groceries from? And then at the very bottom of this kind of map, that's where you should put your takeaways. So after you think about the X and Y axis of stages and specifics, you're going to start to think about what opportunities are there and what challenges your customers are having. So these are really insights that you gain from going through this mapping process. This is that thing broken out in a much simple way when you don't use any sort of template. It's just lines and post-its. You could do it. You could sketch on a board, but you'll see kind of the stages across the top. So I'm researching something. I'm starting to shop, right? I'm going to book my travel. What happens post-booking, pre-travel, travel, post-travel, and then the goals down the left side with the challenges and opportunities there at the bottom. So just start to think about this stuff and re-examine it. This is an example we did at ACV Auctions a few years ago that really jumped into their product and how the specifics of the feature would be delivered. And we were able to prioritize this stuff top down to say that first row of yellow post-its was truly the must-have features, where everything below that could kind of come later. But we took a look at the stages and the specifics, and that's how we scoped out their product. A higher level map that you could look at your business is something that addresses these kind of 5 columns. It talks about who your user is in the very left, how they discover your offering, how they learn about your offering, how they then use it, and then what their goals are. And this one I love. It's kind of a higher level than simply the user journey map, but it's really great to help understand and take a look because things have changed, and now these are all different, right? All of your physical material and how people might discover or might learn about you, it might used to have been coffee or something like that, now has to be done virtually. So use these kind of grids and matrices to reassess and examine those journeys of your business. I'll talk about quickly design pillars. These are things that I just live by, that I like to remind people by, but reduce risk. I think there's a lot you can create with software and design in the world, and you want to kind of keep your risk low. That might be cost or exposure, but this little graphic that you see here is all about providing value to the little skateboard. In the very first one, essentially, a lot of people think about software and design as creating the wheel first, because the customer needs to get from A to B. But actually building the skateboard will help them get there sooner, and then you can start adding features as you move to the right and eventually get to that dream car. So reduce risk, kind of think minimally first, and then get things out in the world and learn from it. The next is think in systems. And these are really, I just think of like bricks and building architecture, whatever it might be, right? Each thing is a brick, and then you can start to build rooms and houses and all sorts of cubbies. But things like a typography scale, button systems, your standard colors, what your navigation will look like, what your inputs will look like. These are little components of your interfaces that allow you to scale them up with ease without the waste of thinking about each one. The third pillar is to build in learning. I can't say this enough. With everything that you put out into the world, we have to understand what the effect of it is and what the outcome is. So make sure you have Google Analytics hooked up, not in just the basic way, but look at event tracking specifically in your interfaces. Use things like Google Forms to talk to your users regularly. There's a great tool called Look Back that allows you to kind of see what your users are doing and actually run remote user testing. Super, super powerful. So 3 pillars: reduce risk, think in systems, and build in learning. I'm flying through this little recap and tools. I talk about empathy maps, the journey maps, the pillars, and then some tools, right? I love the Google Suite, Google Forms, Hangouts, Zoom for video. Lookback.io is fantastic. Miro.com is one of my favorite tools. Very powerful in this time. It has all sorts of templates for empathy maps and journey maps. And you can Google UX Canvas. That's kind of an add-on. And I guess I'll finish with this. The way mindsets I think about is fixed and growth. And you might have heard about this, but when you have a fixed mindset, you might avoid what's uncomfortable and think that I am the way I am no matter what. And then having a growth mindset means you embrace the challenge, you adapt, you will persist, you embrace criticism and learn from it. And I think during these times, we all need to be on the right and understand that now is an opportunity for growth. We understand it's uncomfortable. We understand that there's big challenges in front of us, but we know we can adapt and change and make tomorrow better, the next week better. So keep that growth mindset. And if you have any questions, you can reach me at any of these things. My handle is typically watch84 on the social media, but shoot me an email at jonathan@helmux or just visit helmux.com.
All right.
It's my time.
If
What was my
only you
time?
could have put some more in there, Jonathan. I'm pretty disappointed. That was awesome. So just to make sure, now as we're pivoting within the structure of this thing, to make sure everyone rolls along and gets the ops, I'm going to move, and there's no questions in the chat anyway. So I'm going to move on to the next one. And again, as the talks are happening, I know a few people have joined us in the midst of Jonathan's talk. If you have questions, throw them in the chat, and then I'll feed them to the presenter, or we'll just wait till the end and everyone's gone through, and then we'll see what questions are out there. So thanks so much, Jonathan. And up next is Mr. Erik Eustice.
Thanks, Paul. Let's go and share that screen. Let's play from the start. Fantastic. All right. You guys can see it all? Good? Awesome. So I'm going to talk real briefly about the hero's journey, okay, and how to be their guide, be your audience's guide, and be more successful as a result. So first, we have to understand what the hero's journey is. The hero's journey is a story archetype that is deeply embedded in the subconscious of all human minds. It's been there for thousands of years, and a guy named Joseph Campbell in the 1940s basically coined the term the hero's journey. What is the hero's journey? You start with a character in their ordinary world. They encounter a problem, a challenge, a villain, some inciting incident, and they are stuck. A guide enters the story and connects with the hero. This guide creates a plan. This guide motivates the hero to action, and then thus they avoid failure and they achieve success. And the ultimate goal, the goal of every hero's journey, is that the hero transforms, and that's the end of the story. All right. So one of the biggest mistakes, I say most common mistakes that brands make, is that they position themselves as the hero, right? They all want to be Luke Skywalker. The thing is, there is no Luke Skywalker without Yoda. Your brand is Yoda, all right? And if you think Luke Skywalker is kind of too played out for a hero archetype, you could put in Pee Wee Herman, okay? So be their hero by being their guide, all right? This actually isn't that hard to do. You have to do two main things. You got to express empathy. Jonathan, thanks for broaching that topic earlier. You have to express empathy, and then yes, you have to establish authority. Expressing empathy is things like, I've been where you've been. I know what it's like to be you. To get inside their head and speak to the internal hidden motivations. And being able to say, yeah, I know you because I've helped people like you. This is something you can't over empathize. This is usually a second common mistake. Brands don't put enough emphasis on empathy. They put too much emphasis on the next thing, which is establishing an authority, getting people to trust you, okay? I have the experience and skills you're lacking. This is important, but psychology shows us that if you get people to like you and feel good about you, they will automatically trust you, even if they shouldn't. So of course you use these powers for good and not for evil. So establishing authority is like salt. Use it sparingly. So how you do this is you want to get beyond the obvious. There's three categories of motivations. They are external, internal, and philosophical. External are things in the Star Wars theme. Star systems are being threatened, and there's this massive object of destruction called the Death Star. Physical things, right? Internal. These are things for Luke like, but who were my parents really? And who am I really? And what is my destiny? Okay. Internal motivations are the most powerful. This is what moves people to action. External are things about what your business is and what you do and how you do it. Internal is about the hero and what is going on inside deep down. Philosophical in Star Wars, these are bigger forces like the Force, the idea of good versus evil, and obviously good triumphing over evil. So here are some categories of things that motivate, and some of these things showed up on what Jonathan was showing us earlier. The idea of conserving resources. Can you tell a story that helps your audience and your hero save time, save money, save attention, or maximize time, money, and attention? Certainly an important message right now for a lot of people. Social networks. Can you tell a story, all right, that helps connect your hero and your audiences to a larger group that has people in it that are like-minded, because we all want to belong? The idea of status. We all want recognition. All right, can you tell a story for your audience that shows how that hero will become more of the person that they secretly wish they could be and aspire to be and express that outwardly? How about generosity? We all want to make a difference. Can you tell a story that will show your audiences how by being connected to you, it makes them more capable of making the difference that they want to make? And finally, the idea of meaning. We all want to matter. Can you tell a story that shows your hero how they are more meaningful and their actions make a bigger difference through connecting with you? So here are some questions you can ask to help you ferret these things out, okay? Ways to get at what I say, what matters most to your hero. Ask yourself, where is the hero going? What journey are they on? Don't stop at the external, think internal. What internal journey are they on? What bigger philosophical journey are they on? What might threaten their success on this journey? Of course, as we know in every great story, there's challenges around every corner. What are some of those challenges they're experiencing, and how do they impact them again internally? What's really at stake? Something has to be at stake, otherwise it's boring and nobody wants to watch or read that story, right? So what do they stand to lose that would make them less of who they want to be, right? Ask questions around that. And obviously this idea of transformation, what's the transformation that they're trying to make? Who is it that they're really trying to become? Your story should focus on helping them make that transformation. And then you just layer on top of it the fact that you provide a service or a product that helps them to do that. So next steps, what do you do from here? You might consider the following things. You could read a great book called Building a Story Brand that I didn't write. A guy named Donald Miller wrote it. He's freaking brilliant. And he basically distilled down in a very easy to understand and digestible framework to build your own story brand framework. So I say, get the book, because you know what your competitors probably aren't going to do. Get the book and read the book. They're probably not going to do the next thing, which is follow the framework. It's super intuitive. Like I said, it's easy to follow. I've done it a bunch myself and with clients. And then just do the work. Adjust your messaging, your advertising, your social, your website, your customer experience. Align all of these channels. Again, positioning you as the guide, speaking to the internal desires and motivations, positioning them as the hero. And the final thing you could do if you're inclined is I'm offering to the first 3 people that email me at that address, I'll spend 30 minutes with you and we can talk through any of these items. Also, if you want to talk about anything related to your brand or your marketing for free advice, I'd be willing to do that for the first 3. If I get more than that, I would do my best to try to schedule those out, but no promises on that. And with that said, we'll open up to questions, but I just want to thank you guys for the time. And I hope that you and your heroes find what you're looking for.
Awesome. Thank you, Erik. I don't see any questions in here. That was an awesome presentation. I do kind of wish you would use the examples from Pee Wee when you're laying out the story parts, but you know, listen, we all have our own things, right?
Sure. Well, in 3 to 5 minutes.
Yeah, and you did nail that 6-minute bit, so you hit that right on. Okay, so no questions here. We'll keep stockpiling some, and then up next is Katie. So once Erik stops his share, Katie, you are up.
All right. Hello, everyone. Thanks so much for having me. Those are great. Okay, let's see. We can do this seamlessly. Hopefully. Yes?
We see it.
Perfect. Okay. Get to slideshow. All right. So my name is, hi, I'm Katie. I'm here to talk about PR and communications. I am a PR and communicator at my core. I own 19 Ideas. I run it with my husband, Dan Giganti. We are a full service marketing communications firm, but I'm here today specifically to talk more about the PR and communications angle of pivoting your efforts. So just in the experience of just the last 6 weeks, I really wrote this presentation or put it together with the guys of what I've just gone through and what I've seen other people go through. And here's what I feel is the most critical to deliver to you guys. So in a crisis, there are really 2 things that ultimately matter most with your messaging. First is timeliness. You have got to get out there in a timely fashion. If you belabor putting your messaging together, or you're really thinking about how best to phrase it, you've got to think, number one is you can't, this is where analysis paralysis will kill you. Analysis paralysis will kill you. You have to get out there in a timely fashion, especially when things, particularly in mid-March, things were changing by the hour. The second is accuracy. You've got to make sure that what you're putting out there is accurate information. If you don't have these two things, you don't really have much of a strong message at all, in my opinion. I did list timeliness first above accuracy, and you might wonder why that is. Because again, in times of a crisis, timing matters most. Not to say that accuracy doesn't, it's just that there might be moments when you don't know the answer, you don't have all of the information, you don't have the full picture, but it's important that you still get your message out there in a timely way, and you say what you do know and that what you don't know is coming. So there are a few more things that matter besides timeliness and accuracy, and here ultimately are your key attributes for your messaging. One is clear. Is it clear? Is your point or the takeaway easily understood by your audience? If it's not clear, you've not done your job. Is it direct? Are you getting to the point quickly? Is it honest? Is the information true? If it's not true, what are you holding back? Why are you putting out disinformation? Are you adding to potentially, the disinformation cycle that might be out there? It has to be true. And again, if you don't have all of it, that's okay. Be honest about that you don't have all of it. It has to be relevant. Is it timely? Again, in an age where things were changing by the hour or by the day, what was relevant yesterday may not be relevant today, which goes to, two down is frequent. Just to say that, are you putting out information regularly to keep up with the news cycle and to keep up with what is actually happening? Just to jump back up to consistent, are your messages contradicting or conflicting with each other? Again, if you're putting out messages day to day and things are changing, are you in contradictory with it? And if it is contradictory in any fashion because maybe the environment has changed, then you need to explain that. And what about your actions? Do your actions conflict or contradict your messages and vice versa? And then the word of the day is empathic or empathy, because be human. Are you being empathic? Particularly, I'm speaking to the situation we find ourselves in today. We're all going through this. We can't just be talking at people. We have to really, we have to show that we understand on a much deeper level. The bottom line is that every message and every action needs to build trust. That's really it. If you're not building trust, then you're really doing your business a disservice. Here's an example. And before I get into this, this is not a political statement. I worked in government the first 10 years of my career. And I look at what Governor Cuomo is doing, and he checks all of these boxes. He is clear, he is direct, he's honest, he's relevant, he's consistent, he's frequent, and he's human. But what he's also doing is he's really leaning into that humanity of the current situation. He talks about his own fears and concerns, particularly when he speaks about his family, his elderly mothers, his mother, his daughters. And by doing that, he's validating people's fears and concerns. Validation is something in the human experience that we all need, but no one really talks about. And he's validating people. He's keeping his messages not just truthful, but fact-focused. And through all this, he's really showing that he's decisive. And that decisiveness is critical. And you can even see here that effective messaging in a crisis is really akin to the same effective leadership qualities that you might read about in books or online articles and that sort of thing. I have a few additional considerations. So aside from those key attributes, first and foremost, your information needs to be digestible and readily available. Erik and Jonathan talked about like ways in which your messaging has to really be out there on all of your channels. Absolutely, but it goes back to the, is it clear, is it direct? If you start getting into flowery language, you might be losing people. It has to be easy to digest. And again, I say here too, all communication mediums need to be updated with the same information. One thing that I just want to stress here, and this is something that I don't know that a lot of businesses really think about, particularly the larger the business is, you really have to think about from a functionality perspective, do you have the right operational framework and processes in place for your business to make sure that when a crisis hits, you have the power that you can leverage of either an internal communications team or your agency partner to work closely with the various functions of your business to make sure that everybody is on the same page with what those messages are. So that could include your HR department, operations, facilities and maintenance, particularly if you're in the healthcare setting right now. For an example, taking healthcare, clinical is a critical piece of the function here for getting your messages out. Communication needs to have a direct line to the clinical side of the business. They need to understand what's happening on the front lines in order to then be able to communicate to the various audiences, both internally and of course then externally. That could be for public safety reasons. It could be for needs, as we're seeing with PPE and other areas. But this is something that I think often gets overlooked at the critical function that communications plays within the operational framework of a business. So just to wrap up here, a couple of centralizing and systemizing communication. Centralizing and systemizing your communication will put those internal and external audiences on the same page, which is critical. Again, going back to making sure that it's consistent and reliable because you want to build trust. You have to ensure that accurate messaging is everywhere your business exists. So doing so provides that clear guidance for audiences to find information and where to go for timely updates. At the end of the day, though, you have to meet your audience where they are, especially in times of crisis. So using this current global crisis as an example, look at how much is popping up with telemedicine. Again, you have to meet people where they are. An example is also, there's an urgent care locally here that rolled out an in-car triage process for folks who might have been infected with COVID-19 or who might not know that they have the disease, haven't been tested yet, but don't actually want to go into a facility to spread the disease. And also addresses any fears of people who have not yet or don't feel that they've been exposed to the disease, who need urgent care services, but who are afraid to leave their houses for fear of being exposed. It's meeting people where they're at. Now I'm going to say something a little controversial, depending on where you sit. And I say this, I caveat this. I mean, I do own a marketing firm that we do offer branding. However, a crisis is not the time for brand speak. Eric, don't kill me. What I'm saying here is that doesn't mean you throw your brand out the window. What I'm really saying is, and this is again, watching what has transpired over the last 6 weeks, you cannot analysis paralysis yourself to the point of wanting to make sure that you are fitting into your brand and what your brand means. If it is at the expense of what I said earlier, putting out timely and relevant information that is critical to the public, especially if you are in healthcare. Now is not the time to reinvent your brand or rethink through it. If you have people behind the scenes to do that while you're putting out messaging and you can refine, wonderful, but it cannot come at the cost of putting out clear and concise messaging in a timely fashion. You got to get to the point. And that's my chat. Thank you. Let's stay in touch. I too welcome opportunities to connect with people. I like to do coffees at Remedy House, and instead we'll just have to brew our own cups and do a Zoom meeting, which is no problem. This is my team. That's my puppy, Ellie, and she thanks you too. Thanks, guys.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Katie. We are jamming in the info here. I love it. This is it's a lot to process. By the way, someone did just message me and asked about providing slides. And I've now decided that the people who are actually here, I will send the recording to. So if you want to reach out to people, obviously do further contact, get slides directly, but I will be sharing the recording of this with the people who actually made it. Just not with anyone else necessarily, or the people who registered but didn't come. So thanks for the question, Ryan. Thank you, Katie. And next up, we have Matt Zelasco.
Hey, thanks, Paul.
Yeah.
And thanks for everybody else for participating and everybody that's checking this out. I'm going to quick share my screen here. There we are, I think. There we go. So I'm going to jump right in and I'm going to talk about designing workflows to enable customer success. I think that this is extremely important outside of a crisis. I think it's even more important now that we are dealing with this pandemic. So I'm going to jump right in. I want to emphasize that customers aren't the output of your marketing efforts, of your automations, of your technology, of all of the things that you do for your business or your clients. They are your most valuable resource for growth. So, traditionally we have thought about, the marketing funnel as this way that we, fill the hopper and bring marketing and, to them, and then connect them with sales, and then they become customers, and that's it. I really want to start thinking about this as more of a flywheel on the left there, where all of these efforts go in and around our customers, and we do a lot of things to get that flywheel moving. I do want to bring up the fact that it's great to talk about these one-on-one conversations and everything like that, but then the reality is a little bit different, and this is what businesses are doing. They have all of these options out there, and these are all logos of the different marketing tech options out there for people right now to use. So what a lot of this does is it enables us to be less human, be less empathetic, and automate more things. And a lot of times, automations are great, but human interactions are even better. You can see in 2011, there were about 150 options. And in 2019, there are over 7,000. So that's a massive appetite. If there weren't businesses out there buying these, they wouldn't exist, right? So I really want to emphasize that this tech shouldn't reduce human interaction. It should make that human interaction more efficient and effective. So we want to, attract, engage, and delight those customers, using that human interaction that is, benefiting from that tech. If you're thinking about using tech, for something, ask yourself, is this removing friction for me, or is it removing friction for my customer? Ideally, it's both, but at a minimum, it should be removing that friction for your customer, not the other way around, right? Right now, I think it would be a really great thing for customers or businesses to create product adoption and onboarding programs. A lot of this is going to revolve around a SaaS or service model, but it can be applied to a lot of different verticals. You're going to lose 75% of your new users within the first week. Half of free trial users will never come back. That's a huge problem for anybody running a SaaS company. But it can be applied to, consumable products, a bunch of different verticals. So if they're not reminded of, how that product made them feel, or how it made them happy, they're probably not going to come back. And as we know, successful customers are happy customers, and happy customers are going to refer other people to your product. I think it's extremely important right now is, to show that value and measure that success. Make sure that it's clear, show people any relevant stats or metrics, and then celebrate those successes. So if your product, helps somebody overcome a challenge or a problem that they're facing, don't be afraid to celebrate those successes and make them aware of that. And you can do a lot of that through different automation workflows in one of those many options that I showed on one of the slides before, typically Marketo, HubSpot, one of those types of things. Obviously, creating a superior customer experience is always important. I think right now it is more important than ever. Let people engage with you on their terms. This means making, ticketing easy, having conversations extremely easy, whether it's live chat, conversational chatbots, email. I mean, so many businesses send email from no reply at. I think that's, it's 2020. It's time for that to die. You should be able to ask a question if they want, if you want to. So and then really creating a robust knowledge base for self-service. Right now, obviously, there are a lot of people calling in to different businesses with questions, things like that. I think a great example is unemployment, and they're just not putting out enough information. for people to self-serve and figure out how to get through that process. I think that's something that is lacking in a lot of businesses. So I think, definitely, create that. It's a great time to build that content. Enable your customer service department to be proactive, using automation workflows, track FAQs and knowledge-based pages, just like you would track sales pages, pricing pages, things like that. A lot of companies are already in the habit of using HubSpot, Marketo, Eloqua, Pardot, any of those things to automate email outreach when a customer might be interested in buying something from them. I think it's really important to use those FAQs and knowledge-based pages where they're trying to self-serve, and consider automations to alert your customer success team, your customer service team, whoever that is, or even just automate that outreach from an actual person's email address, so that when they respond, you can actually engage with them. And then really, it's an opportunity to consider upsell and cross-sell opportunities. Right now may not be the exact time to implement that, but this is something that you can build upon as things get a little bit closer to normal. Really enable your customers to share their success and make it as painless and frictionless as possible. A lot of these can be automated. So, giving them, the give and get rewards, I think it's a really powerful thing. So if you have, a referral program, allow them to give part of their reward, so that they can feel like they're helping others by helping your business. Make it, easy to follow links for Google reviews. People are sitting around right now. It's a great time to, build those reviews, to build that trust, and make case studies or things like that if it's relevant to your business. Easy to schedule, because those can all be done over a Zoom meeting like this. Another opportunity with people sitting at home, have a lot of time on their hands, promote and incentivize user-generated guest blogs and other original content. I think that is an idea that can be really impactful to a lot of businesses right now. When possible, put all of these things in one place for your customer. I'm going to share an example here of a client of mine that we are getting ready to launch. This has been in the process for a long time. We're really happy to be able to launch this during this time. Really, it's just something that already existed, but we realized that we had this opportunity, rather than driving people to this third-party app called Solar Edge, that we can bring it all in and give them, some really, shareable, braggable stats. So, I mean, I've saved 68.5 tons of, gas emissions. Trees have been planted in my, because of my solar system. But then really, enabling them to refer a friend right from a dashboard, share and review, submit a support ticket, engage with your customer success team, schedule those case studies, schedule an event. Obviously, that's something that's a little bit on hold right now, but and then submit that original content and really get into their own profile. I want to leave this with, one thing that I live by is that people don't buy brands they love the brands they buy. And what that means is it's really difficult to get somebody to fall in love with a brand or a product just through marketing, right? So that experience is something that they are going to be connected with. And, that you really want to get them to go out and tell other people. It's human nature, right? I own a Subaru, so I want other people to experience the same joy that my Subaru brings me, but it also validates that decision to buy a Subaru. So I think that's a really impactful thing, especially right now. Again, I want to thank everybody, and that's really all I have. I am also available. I actually removed all of my personal slides here to cut down on time. So if anybody needs to reach out to me, I'm available at matt@renownedcreative.com, or you can find me on LinkedIn. Happy to talk to everybody.
Cool. Thanks so much, Matt. Another jam-packed one there, and he's off. So next up, Mike Davern.
Was I supposed to have something prepared for this, Paul?
No.
Oh, cool.
Just be you.
That's going to be a mistake for all of us. We're not going to do that.
Exactly.
All right, give me just a second here, guys. Can everyone see okay? All right, cool. All right, so a lot of you know me. I've met a couple of you actually pretty recently, but I'm Mike Davern. I am a partner and CEO of Incept. We are a Buffalo-based digital marketing firm. We do work all over the country and actually in a couple other countries as well. And our focus is it's by design, but we've got three real categories we focus on. Number one is healthcare. Number two is sports, entertainment, and events. So we're killing it there right now, guys. And number three is small business. So when we look at all of those different spaces, there is actually something that we all should be doing, should have been doing all along, but sometimes focus on a lot of the other great ideas that have been shared by everyone today. And what I'm about to talk about will actually have lasting and exponential impact on everything that's been reviewed. And that really is increasing attention in sales comes from a lot of different places, but a good start for that is having a strong digital foundation. Okay, so when we work with a new client and we're talking with, looking through the process and looking at what kind of value we might be able to provide to the relationship, one place we start is with this core digital foundational piece. So one of those places is location and citation SEO. So whether you're a company that has a door that people come in and out of and do business, or you serve a geographical area, or even like us, you're an agency where clients might come in from time to time, you certainly want to make sure that that information is shored up. And it goes a lot beyond Google My Business, which even is more important right now because I don't know if everyone's aware, but Google has really trimmed down a lot of the functionality in Google My Business. They've turned off reviews right now just because people were starting to leave reviews for things like, I went to go to the restaurant and it was closed. Well, the restaurant's closed because they can't be open. So Google didn't want to start driving down people's review scores for things like that. And then there's also data aggregators out there. There's 3 or 4 companies, depending on who you want to argue with about who are true aggregators, who send things like name, address, phone number information, website URL, social URLs potentially, and other specific information about our business that feeds search and feeds a lot of different sources. Then there's also more consumer-facing sites out there that compile our listing information and places where you can go and claim those profiles and actually then potentially sync that up with the aggregators to make sure that all that information is out there correctly. We're only about 40% of the way there. Out of every business that exists in the US, only about 40% of us even touch this area. But why wouldn't you? The result of this is you're going to have more references about your company showing up in search results. Maps are very important. GPS directions are important. And even some of the GPS apps like Waze and things like that, where do you think that they get that information about, where's that local restaurant or where can I get gas next? It's this information that's out there in all these different data sources that are feeding these searches. So we want to make sure that people can find us when they're looking for us by name, of course, but by category. We start by name and we start building those references by our service area as well. And it does an awful lot for our foundation. And then all of the other things that we throw into the mix then have a much larger impact. The next piece is your website. I'm going to call it SEO, but it's really, again, about just the basics. Even those of us who are out there as marketers, a lot of times we don't spend as much time as we should focusing on some of those basics, like making sure our page sizes are up to Google snuff so that we're not going to have any reduced results because our files on our pages are too big. Speed is very important. Mobile optimized. We went through that through all of that process a few years ago. And I know we still come across clients and people out there that don't have a mobile optimized site, and maybe they haven't touched their site in 5, 6, 7 years. And there's a big opportunity for improvement there. Meta descriptions, I'm not talking about metadata. You can argue that metadata isn't as important in terms of where our websites rank, but those descriptions are super important. It's clickbait. So when we look at what we're talking about on what the content is on a specific page, what we're describing that comes up in that search result oftentimes is going to drive a customer or a prospect's decision to click on that link. So those meta descriptions are really important, and security is important as well. So Google is looking for all of these things when they're trying to assess what results from different websites that they're going to be serving up generally in a search, and also making sure that we have a good keyword balance, like those word clouds and things that used to exist a few years ago that you still run across on people's websites, or the overloading of keywords. Bad things to do. And if you're doing any of those things, it's a really good time to make sure that you're striking that balance about what people are searching for, how that's exemplified within the content on our website that makes sense and flows the way that it makes sense from the customer experience, which then also gives us rewards in terms of how Google is going to rank those different search results. So when we talk about that, make sure content that you're updating is meaningful to your goals. So that's a blog, awesome. If that's doing links and backlinks, that's good too. And fresh content always helps, but it has to have a purpose. And it kind of goes back to what everyone's been talking about, is being relevant and being timely. And if we've got an opportunity to communicate out along those ways, it's going to get us that much further ahead. Social media, make sure you're everywhere you should be. For most of us, that's going to be, and depending on whether we're B2B or B2C, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, YouTube, possibly even Pinterest. I would argue even if you're B2B, and we see this with a lot of healthcare clients especially, and some of the vendors to the healthcare industry we service, Facebook and Instagram are still important places for those folks to be providing content as well. Post what makes sense. So it's about being smart about what's going on right now, but it's also about knowing your audience and being able to pivot and be able to adjust to what's going to be relevant to them. I know what was already said. It's great if we got to make sure that we're doing something for our end consumer and not for ourselves. It's great if we can strike balance on both, but customer comes first in terms of what we're looking at. So think through that and optimize always. The rules are changing. So what worked yesterday might not work next week, and what worked 2 years ago might work again tomorrow. So we've got to make sure that we're up on where those algorithm changes come, what we need to do to optimize our profiles and make sure that we're getting the best bang for our buck, whether we're spending money or whether we're just spending our time to optimize those profiles. And then consider correct software solution. I know Matt had mentioned over 7,000 different MarTech options out there. There's some great options and there's some really, really crappy ones. So when you talk about social media, we want to avoid like those companies on Instagram, for connected Instagram, for instance, who are automatically liking and following people and making comments that aren't even relevant to what the content is. That hurts all of us at the end. And when any of us take on a client like that, we typically have a hole we've got to come out of to be able to address that. Now, there is some software though for scheduling efficiency. We talked earlier about making sure that we're doing something that could save time, could do something that could save money, make us more efficient. The right software could certainly do that. And then you want to maybe fold in some things that are doing some social listening so that we might have some content to share as well. And also know when there's some buzz about something we might have done. Without a software solution, you might miss out on some of that as well. Reputation management, reviews were already talked about as well. So it's really a holistic approach. You want to monitor and reply so you have that level of engagement. You want to solicit in the right way. So sending out a text message or an email after someone's had an experience with you to solicit that review. And then don't forget about, when you're talking about replying, don't forget to sprinkle in your SEO keywords. So there's nothing wrong with that. And that actually helps with some of that off-page SEO in terms of search results as well. But knowing and being timely, and that's that monitoring piece, knowing when that review just came up, replying to it in a timely way where you're addressing it as a human, you're talking, you mention the person's name, and if it's a compliment, thank them for it and sprinkle in those SEO keywords as a part of what you're offering. And if it's something negative, then let the world know that you care about that problem and take ideally take that conversation offline. And sometimes you can even get that individual to remove that review as well. So bringing it all together, if we want to be everywhere that we should be with the correct information, we want to make sure at a minimum our websites meet that basic SEO requirements. That can go a long way. And we want to let people see how great you are at what you do and show them you care, and actually take that time to address both the praise and criticism that comes in with the reputation management piece. So why is that all important to work together? Because you're going to end up visible on far more search results. You're going to push, and this is important, some or even sometimes all of your competition out of the way. We have some clients where, because their competitive pool, maybe in the small business space specifically, might not be doing any of these things, it doesn't take a lot of effort for them to just start occupying all of those search results, and even search by name, but also search by category. And that way we're going to get that call or that click, which is inevitably going to turn into, obviously, it's up to us on the sales side to turn that into more business. And then remembering that there's a lot of software options out there. We do have a single sign-in dashboard, and that all our services can be accessed from one place. We can even build apps for your own software that you bring into play. So if anyone wants to talk to me, I'd be happy to talk about just thoughts on strategy in that presence. But we're also offering, and I know free trials were talked about a little bit here. We've gotten a lot of our partners together to offer something for up to 90 days. You can see the list here, where it's quite a bit that we're offering. It's not all inclusive, and it doesn't have to be everything. But if you have any interest, certainly check out the link, or just text the word GET to 71441, and we'll shoot you a text message with that link as well. And I know I ran over a little on time, so Paul, thank you for the text, and thank you everyone for your time.
Awesome. Thank you, Mike. And yes, whether I'm making a presentation myself or setting one up with other people, be sure that we will have far too much information for the timeline that we have allotted. Exactly. I have no doubt everyone's totally equipped to implement every single thing that we covered today within the next 3 hours. But seriously, we do have one question up, and it's a critical one. I see here that Mike McKay has asked about your golden retriever here, Katie. So do you want to address that quickly?
Well, yeah. So thanks for that question. I do have her. She's a Labradoodle. She does sort of look like a golden doodle. Ellie, she was front and center in that family photo that I showed. And if not, here she is.
There we go. Perfect. Awesome. Awesome. Thank you. So thanks everyone so much for coming out and presenting, and hopefully for the folks who are here who are not presenting, this was definitely worth the time. I will be sharing this recording once we sort out the back end of the system. And if you have any other questions for me, or really for anyone else here, but for some reason you can't get through to them, then let me know and I'll do my best to get you guys hooked up. But either way, thanks so much everybody for coming out and sharing something of yourselves.
Thank you, everyone.
And that's it. See you.
Thank you.
Everyone, thanks for
Bye.
giving me a reason to put on lipstick today. Bye, guys.
Yeah.
You too.